Welcome to Hard NOC Life, episode 29. I'm your host, Nelson Wong. And today we're going to be talking with Jason Grandmaster Chu.
Oh man, taking it back.
He's a rapper, hip hop artist, and he's based in Los Angeles. And he's got this cool project that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. Hey Jason, how's it going down there?
Yo, what's up, guys? Yeah, it's beautiful. Like, look, super thankful to be joining you guys. Really enjoy, what you're doing with Nerds of Color and everything. So I'm blessed to be on this cast with you, man.
So when did you actually start rapping? Was it actually in college or
I've
before?
been rapping about 10 or 12 years, actually. About 12 years now. Just growing up, grew up in Delaware. Grew up around a very diverse crowd. We had, Indian American. We had my best friend his dad was Nigerian and his mom's white American, and then a couple other really close friends I had. These black guys who were born in the Bronx and then grew up in Baltimore, and we all went to this same nerd school together. It was a math and science school. So here we are, all these like diverse but super nerdy kids. And for whatever reason, rap was what we gravitated towards. So I remember, do you remember that song, Got Rice?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so actually the first time I ever performed in public was at my junior year talent show. Alan Chen and Howie Shen and I were supposed to do Got Rice together, but they backed out. Yeah, so I was like, man, do I want to do this? But in the end, I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not? Let's do this. And then, 12 years later, I'm a full-time rapper in LA, so.
Now some people may not remember or not know that you were actually part of a group called Model Minority with the Fung Brothers.
That's right.
Now
Shout
talk
out to
about
David. Shout out to David.
how did that whole thing start and how did you guys get connected?
Life is just so funny, I was in Beijing. I was working in Beijing for a faith-based nonprofit. And actually what it was I was walking on the street one Sunday afternoon in Wudalco, which is like the university district in Beijing. And this dude walks up to me and he's like, yo, are you Jason? And I'm like, yeah. And it was David Fung, because he was out there. He was actually going to pursue an entertainment career in China or Taiwan. And we had a mutual friend, but for whatever reason, like we didn't actually, like I'd seen some messages, but I was trying to get this nonprofit thing up and running. So he bumped into me on the street, and we actually started talking and chopped it up that day. And then like a week later, he moved in to my place, and we were roommates while he was out there. So while we were out there, we were always discussing, like especially for Asian Americans. I think for a lot of our generation, hip-hop is a very important influence. For a lot of the kinds of Asian Americans who think about culture, who are into pop culture, rap, hip-hop is very naturally a part of that culture that we're interested in. So we were asking, how can we use hip-hop to empower our ethnic community? And, definitely, hip-hop that comes from the Black and Latino communities uses and skews certain stereotypes, reappropriates them. So we were saying, what can we reappropriate? Like if we come out trying to act hard, trying to act bad, like nobody cares about that. That's stupid. So what can we flip to empower our people? And the model minority stereotype very naturally came up. So we took that and we ran with it, and we actually did book some shows off that, and had a couple videos out there that did okay. And yeah, we're actually able to take that for a little while.
Did they give you any advice on the whole YouTube front?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because that was just as YouTube was closing down, but they still managed to like parlay their brand. So they definitely gave me a lot of advice, a lot of information at the beginning, until I was able to finally realize who I am and start growing on my own as an artist. But yeah, I mean, I'll always give them a lot of love, give them a lot of props for how they helped me start off.
So how did your life in Beijing kind of influence your music? Because I guess when you were in Beijing, you created the album The Uncool while you were in Beijing, or did that start a little bit before you actually were?
You know me for a minute, Nels. Damn, man. Nobody else knows the Uncool. Nobody else remembers that, but you remember that. Thank you. That's crazy to me because yeah, that was like really the foundation for what we're doing now. But the Uncool, big fan of Lupe Fiasco, and my mentor, my friend Peter, we were talking about Lupe's whole approach to music, where he's very thoughtful. He definitely gets his points across, but in a way that's open to others. And so Lupe Fiasco released the Cool, and so I kind of wanted to flip that, same way that the Model Minority, we flipped that stereotype. I wanted to flip the Uncool, or flip the Cool into the Uncool, and really represent for my people who grew up being told they were uncool or thinking they were uncool, but really speaking about that lifestyle.
On the Uncool, you tackled some pretty heavy subjects that a lot of people might not have even touched, with the Christian Muslim, the one child.
Yeah.
Speaking about China's one child policy, I mean, you really try to tackle some pretty heavy topics.
I was thinking about this last night. I just went to a show with the homies. The Jin was there, Amp Movement was there, Go was there, all these dope Asian American artists. And I was driving back with my girl, and we were talking about how like we all have our own niches. Like Amp Movement, these three homies from like the Mid-Atlantic, incredible MCs, incredible musicians. Their stuff is really hype, right? It's like it gets people excited. I would say like I definitely have that side of me where if I'm performing, I'll definitely get people up, putting their hands up. Definitely have people, interacting. But for me, when somebody's leaving my show, what I want them leaving with is this feeling of like, man, let me think more about that, or man, like what he was talking about, he talked about it in a way I've never heard talked about before, or he said something that was so true to my life that like, how did he know that? Like that wasn't just a rap show, that was actually somebody really bearing his soul, and that resonated with my soul. So, so very naturally, I think I go to places in my music that seem like they matter to me. Not that like encouragement or positivity or any of that doesn't. But for me, I want to tell stories that would often go untold. So stories like the one child thing, where nobody's ever made a song about, or it's definitely not like no rapper has made a song and shot a video that told the story of like my young Chinese homies who like if they get their girl pregnant, like it's not it's so different, I think, from in America where there's options and there's different choices you make. In China it's just like open and shut. Or similarly, like my song Red Lines, which is about self-harm, mental illness, depression, and cutting. Other people have made those songs before, but we wanted to really execute in a way that showed people that we understand this issue and we care about it and we want to start a dialogue.
Saw an interview with MC Jin actually not too long ago where he felt that if you look back at his old albums, they are just a snapshot in time. So in a way, the Uncool was kind of a snapshot in time.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to see it. That and actually it's cool because so we've got this Marvels project, we've got this Kickstarter, and actually one of the Kickstarter tiers is copies of every project I put out. So Uncool, Much Love, Millennial, and then the new EP Someday Soon. And actually I've got like a good number of people have actually pledged at that tier, which to me it says like they don't just want to know me now, but they appreciate where I've come from. And they really want to remember that whole backstory that's led through, Millennial, that's led through Someday Soon, and that's led into this new single, Marvels.
Now, speaking of your Marvels project, perfect segue here. Talk about it. Talk about it. It's trying to sort of take comic book heroes and what?
Yeah, so Marvels, this last summer, my producer Elion Beats was down from Sacramento. We flew him down to do a week session. So we were in the studio, him, my engineer Chris, and me, every day. And he came up with this one beat that I heard it, and it just felt so hopeful and so powerful. And I was like, man, what can I talk about? You know, because I don't want to be corny. Like, I don't want to just drop some like positive, very vague thing. It's like, what inspires me? And of course, you know, being somebody who grew up, like in the song, I say, the comic store hit a portal into other worlds where awkward nerds became brave, and even got the girl, just a boy, barely even into puberty. These books gave me a vision of the Superman that I could be. Like, you know, that very naturally flowed out of me, and I was like, man, this got to be a song about superheroes. Like, this has to be a song about these stories of people that were conventionally marginalized or unattractive or whatever, being empowered and realizing that they have their own identity. So I started writing that because if you look back actually at all this stuff, at all the albums, like there's always been little hints of nerd culture in there. You know, there's been all these little bits of like, oh, you know, I drop an Aquaman punchline, or I'll talk about, you know, whatever, Bruce Wayne. But I think honestly, like, it was always more under the surface because I just assumed that a lot of people caught it. Plus, you know, I mean, we've already got dudes like Adam Warrock, or you know, like the Proto Men. Like, there's a lot of dope, very comic book inspired bands out there, and you know, I felt like it was ground that had already been covered. But in this one, I wanted to flip it, and I realized that the way for me to approach it from my own unique perspective is let's talk about superheroes, but let's not like I'm not making a rap song about Superman. I'm making a song about us. You know, I'm making a song about the kids, you know, the marginalized kids, the kids of color, whatever. I mean, you know, was it Siegel and Schuster? You know, they're Jews. You know, they were marginalized, and they created this Superman as in some ways a response to Hitler's Übermensch. You know, this idea of like, oh, you know, the Superman of the future is this Aryan-looking dude, blonde hair, blue eyes, big, and they're like, no, you know, he's going to be Clark Kent. Clark Kent is actually, you know, that's us on the page or on the screen. And so I feel like there's this whole untold side of nerd rap or whatever, which is not just, oh, let's make, you know, songs about the heroes. I was like, let's make songs about the kids who looked up to those heroes and how they impacted us, how they spoke to us, how they told us, like, hey, you can be who you are. Or even if society, you know, like X-Men, you know, fighting to protect a world that fears them, you know, or the Fantastic Four. Like, you'd always have these issues where, like, the Thing, you know, he puts on the trench coat and the fedora and he goes out and inevitably he gets exposed and then people are, like, scared of him or repulsed, but he still fights on. And I felt like, you know, for a young person of color growing up, that was definitely something that made a deep impact on me, realizing like, man, like these heroes that these comic books are all about, they're not the cool people. They're actually the outcasts. They're the weirdos, but they're the ones who inspire and save others. So that was the inspiration behind the music video. And when I realized that I could talk about it from that angle, I was like, you know what, that's worth pursuing.
So the project is basically to try to fund some extras for the music video.
Yeah, well, this is what it is. Like, I believe in the project. You know, I believe in the project. So honestly, if you know, if it has to come out of pocket, like I want to see it made. I want to see it made because I think we're gonna make it in a way nobody's made it before. I want to see it made because this isn't just like Red Lines, my song about depression. I didn't make that because I thought like, oh, this will break me into a whole new market of fans. I made it because I wanted to make it for, you know, like I got my little homegirl in Hawaii who, you know, talks to me, like my little high school homegirl in Hawaii who talks to me about cutting on Facebook. And I wanted to make it for her. Or for, you know, the kids, like when I go out and do a high school show and I rap about cutting, or I share about my struggles, and they hit me on Instagram after. So in the same way, like I wanted to make this video because I think it's an important video to have out there. And more than that, I want people to participate in it, because to me it's not just about like, oh, you know, let's make a video, let's drop it, and let's hope it gets to people. It's like, nah, if we're gonna make this, it has to be us making it. So I wanted the input of the community, which isn't just financial input, but is also seeing who's invested enough to back the project, and then talking with them, like, okay, we the people, who are we? Once I can like connect with the people, then we can figure out input. I want to find cosplayers. I want to find people who have like the Superman and Wonder Woman tattoos. I want to find the people who have the comic collections, and find ways to feature them or feature their input in the video and in corollary materials. So really, the Kickstarter, I would say it's both trying to fund the video bigger. Like we've got some comic book artists we're talking to. It's still up in the air, so I can't give names, but we've got some people who worked on some real things who might be down. Definitely visual effects. Like if we are able to hit some stretch goals, like upping the effects budget so that we can really bring this thing to life. And then plus, there's also the rewards. Like there's exclusive art. There's cool stuff. Like we'll talk and I'll find a comic book from my collection that I feel like really speaks to who you are, and I'll send that out. So the more that we can raise, the more that we can also extend those goals to make sure that the product that you get, whether that's the physical EP or whether that's the collector's edition or whatever, will actually be as dope as possible and really engage people.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a pretty cool pledge level where you would actually give them a comic book from your own collection. I mean, it's very personal.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because in the end, I know, I'm not a big name. Like, I don't have, like, hundreds of thousands of followers. But for me, again, the reason I do this is because I believe that there's parts of my story that's not just my story, but it's our story. And so, if people are backing this, it's not like, it's not like a Kev Jumba project where it's like, oh my God, that's Kev Jumba, or like a Wong Fu project where it's like, oh my gosh, like that's Wesley from Wong Fu, like let's like he's so cool. Like for me, people back it, I think, because they believe in my voice. They believe that when I tell a story, it will speak for other stories also. And so I wanted to keep it very personal, very real. Like we're not. Like literally every press email that we're sending out, every contact is, it's me or it's my friend Laura who's working with me on this. It's not, copy paste form emails. It's literally like, hey, Nels, like we've got a relationship. My stuff. Let's talk about this. Or hitting other people, and it's all about that personal relationship.
So, but the project is now what, 57% funded, I think?
Actually, last night we just tipped a little bit. We're at like 62, 63%.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's getting
Yes.
pretty close, and there's still another 3 more weeks, I think?
It's been half a week. We launched on Tuesday.
Okay.
We launched on Tuesday, so it's been like barely any time.
Okay.
I will also say though that that our initial goal, we did set it very modestly, because it's like that's the amount of money that it would take to fund the bare bones production. And so actually my producer and I, this dope guy, he's worked, there's this sci-fi series on Nobility. Yeah, that's based on like MMOs and stuff like that. So he's actually helping with production of that. He's worked with Coldplay. He's done a lot of crazy stuff. So he and I are actually sitting down tomorrow to talk about stretch goals and say, all right, like I'm asking him, Jason, his name's also Jason. Like, all right, man, let's say like the people really kill it. We get that 2,500. What's next? Like, how can we ramp up the video to something where like it really, like I was saying, for me, hip hop, since I was in high school, it's been about inviting people into our stories. So, what will it take to like get the special effects up? What will it take to hire, like actors who've maybe appeared on other things? And can really convey that lifestyle. So we're definitely going to be working on that. Plus, actually, the Kickstarter is also serving as sort of a pre-order thing. I've got this EP coming out next month, and it'll be called Someday Soon. So I've got 2 EPs coming out soon. Next month it's going to be Someday Soon, And then in the late winter, in February, it'll be called We Will Be Heroes. So together they form a complete project. Someday soon we will be heroes. That talks about, the first half is talking about, looking forward and hope. And the second half is talking about what it looks like to become somebody that you are hoping to be, or the struggles that it takes to go through all that. And so, so definitely part of this project is also saying, hey, we've got this dope material coming out. Let's preview some of it for you. Let's show you what we're offering in conjunction with the single, with the Marvels single.
So how can people find out more about your Kickstarter project? Where can they go?
Yeah, the best thing right now, tiny.cc/marvels, all lowercase. Tiny.cc/marvels. Or if you just search for Jason Chu Music on Google, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, you'll find links to all my stuff. But yeah, I mean, the Facebook page, I'm actually really stoked. I worked with a dope graphic designer to do the Facebook page, but actually there's two parts of it that I designed personally. One of it is like, it's this little layout, and it shows the whole team that we put together, and it's laid out like one of those comic book intro pages, like where they would introduce like X-Men Gold Team, like Cyclops, Mutant Leader, Storm, Mistress of the Weather. So I got this little graphic where I laid out my whole team and gave them all titles and biographies. And then the other thing is for the rewards, we laid it out like, you remember in the old comic books, they would have those big ads, cash for prizes, and I mocked up a cash for prizes thing, and it's got like all the little things, and it's got like the little card that you would cut out and all that. So at the very least, we put a lot of time in designing this. It definitely tugs at sort of my nerd sensibilities. So I'd love it if people check that out at tiny.cc/marvels.
After this project, what does the future hold for Jason Grandmaster Chu? I mean, is the Grandmaster even still in play, or is that something you kind of is kind of in the past?
It's funny because it's funny because actually that whole Grandmaster title was given to me by a friend. Like, that's what a friend started calling me, and then we started using that as the rap name. But for a couple reasons, I'm just going by Jason Chu right now. So all my social media is Jason Chu Music. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of that is just at Jason Chu Music. And that's for two reasons. One is, especially as I'm talking about ethnicity, I really want to represent for my family, really want to say like, hey, this is who I am. And I've definitely gotten feedback, like, oh, that's not as cool a nickname as you could have, or oh, that's that's very, like, but for me, again, that's what it's all about. Like, I'm gonna rep the Chu name until either it becomes cool to, or till I die. Like, I'm more and more, I felt like it was disingenuous for me to talk so much about ethnicity and engaging with my heritage and representing for my community, but not put that out on Front Street. And the other part is actually, it was funny because I would have a lot of friends when I was in China who would share my music, but they wouldn't want to, it was weird for them to be like, hey, my friend's Grandmaster and he's doing this. So they'd just be like, hey, my friend Jason just dropped this new song. So I wouldn't, in order to save them from this weird situation where they didn't know what to call me, I just switched up. I was like, you know what, you call me Jason, you're my friends. I don't want fans. I don't want fans who are like, oh, it's Grandma. Like, I want everyone to relate to me the way my friends relate to me. So it's all just Jason Chu right now. And that's the answer to your question. Like, we're just gonna keep rolling ahead like this. We're gonna try to keep it honest. We've got the Someday Soon project launching next month. We've got We Will Be Heroes launching in the late winter. We got some new music videos coming out, collaborating with some dope artists that we're going to be revealing, and then next summer, next fall, we've actually got a concept album planned called The Death and Life of Mr. Tom Fong, a love story, and it's sort of a narrative parable about I'll say that for later. I'm just going to tell you guys that's the name of the concept album, The Death and Life of Mr. Tom Fong, a love story. So, we've got plenty of material. I've got a dope team around me, musicians, producers, videographers. And, you know, as long as we keep getting booked, as long as we keep selling CDs, as long as we keep getting out there, and it seems like people want us out there, we're just going to keep making content, throwing it on YouTube, bringing it to, you know, colleges and shows and churches and wherever is willing to let us rock.
Well, I am looking forward to having Marvels Fund, hopefully in the next couple of days here, and then seeing what stretch goals you guys have coming up. For those of you who are interested, again, the URL is tiny.cc/marvels. Thanks for joining us, Jason, and we hope that the project is successful, and you know, people will, you know, find out more about your past as well. I mean, that, for me, that's the interesting part, is really to see you grow from those albums to albums and just where you're at right now.
Man, thank you. I mean, that means the world to me. Like, you know, that to know that there's people who've been rocking with me for 3-4 years, or I talked to some of my friends from high school, you know, like 8, 9, 10 years. Like, that's amazing to me. Like, to know that I am speaking to some people. I don't need to speak to everyone. To know that there's some people like yourself, you know, maybe like other nerds of color, you know, as they start listening, to know that it does matter to someone. That's all I need to keep going, you know.
Thanks again. Much success in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining the Nerds of Color. Stay tuned for another episode in another week or 2 or so. And this is Nelson Wong signing off.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard NOC Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the Hard NOC Life, but not the jigga kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share their interests together with a similar kind. When they said John Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments, and the lectures. Fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the end.